All right. Hey, guys, we are back for the 36th interview of Home Advantage Wrestling Podcast. I am Jude Swisher, joined today by my good buddy Brock Zacherl. Brock, what's going on?
Not too much, man. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be able to interview you. So, dude, how has quarantine been affecting your life right now?
Uh, not it's actually been pretty helpful. I just moved into this house on the Clarion River, so having time for me and my fiance just to tackle all the things that need done in here. We just redid our bedroom. We couldn't have really got it done if she was still working and I was still
Hmm.
competing. So, um, we're staying productive. We're staying busy to just keep our mind off all the negative things that are going on in the world right now.
What's your secret to that? How do you stay away from all that negative stuff, and stay productive?
Put your freaking phone down.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is when you start staring at a phone screen, it's easy to get sucked into these rabbit holes. And it's fun. Social media is made to be this great thing that brings people together, but it just seems, nowadays a lot of people are tearing each other down. And so, put your phone down, go outside, find some project to do, and you'll find yourself forgetting about that stuff
Mm.
very fast.
When did you discover that?
Honestly, right, when I bought this house, because
Nice.
I was as bad as anybody. When I get those notifications on your phone, they'd say, you spent 4.5 hours looking at your phone or whatever, and so it was a long time.
Yeah,
So I was always bad at it, but I'll tell you what, this house has made things a lot easier because there's always something to do around here.
that's fantastic. Um, so all right, let's take it back all the way to the beginning. You know, how did you get introduced to the sport of wrestling?
So, well, growing up, I was a huge WWE fan, John Cena fan, in
Nice.
particular. I liked Goldberg too, Rey Mysterio, a couple others, but those are just off the top of my head. So, I was about 6 years old, and I have a twin brother, and we both decided, let's go out and give it a shot. And we walked into practice and very soon realized it's not WWE. So,
Yeah.
um, after that practice, we didn't go back, and eventually, growing up, me and Brody played a lot of sport. We played soccer and football. We were good athletes, and eventually, one of our buddies came. He was a wrestler, and we played football with him. And we would get in wrestling matches in my living room floor. My brother would
Hmm.
beat this kid, and he would always talk about. He's like, "No, I'm good. Like I go to the state tournament stuff, and this is still PJWs back then." And so Brody said, I want to try wrestling out. And so I followed suit. And, that kind of started it off. My brother was a killer right off the bat. He was medaling at tournaments, first, second, third place. I kind of staggered back a little bit, but it didn't take too long for it to catch on. It was in our blood. You could tell right away that we were going to be something special.
Did you, aside from your brother, did anyone else in your family wrestle?
No, my dad was a basketball player, but it's funny. He never he was a good basketball player too, but he never really pushed me to play basketball because I never even gave it a shot that I can
Mm.
remember at least. So, but once we started wrestling, man, he loved it. His school didn't have wrestling growing up, and for as fast and as hard as he fell for this sport, he was a wrestler, man. If they would have had it
Oh,
in school, he definitely would have been a wrestler.
that's awesome. Did you like wrestling right from the beginning? Like as soon as you started it?
I want to say yes, but I how I can remember looking back on it is like everyone at Brookville, we were good. We had a really great team of youth guys coming up through. So I got my butt kicked a lot,
Hmm.
and I can't imagine. I thought that was very fun, but then one day I can remember beating one of the better kids, and then after that's whenever I started having fun. And growing up, one of the things that I don't think I did a very good job of is I was ultra competitive. So like for me, like every time I went in the room, I was super serious, unbelievably serious.
Hmm.
And wow, that's really good. I don't think I took enough time to, stop and smell the roses and really enjoy it to the best of my ability. I really didn't start totally enjoying it until, I was in college, which is probably
Yeah.
strange for some people to hear.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough. It's especially when you're losing. Like it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
like the sport, right?
Yep.
Um, well, I mean, Mike, here's another question. Like, how, even though your dad really, he wasn't a wrestler in high school or college or anything like that, how did you were you primarily self-motivated? How did you, continue trying to get better?
Yeah, so like we've talked about before, one of my biggest things is so in our gym we have gym class and there's names on our wrestling mat. So in our
Mm,
practice room, they have them put right into the mat, all of Brookville state champs. And for gym class, you see the banners in the gym that say all the state champs in Brookville history. And so it was really easy for a young kid to see that kind of stuff and be like, I'm next, and I want to get this done. So for me, and I was listening to Pat Santoro talk on a Flow podcast or Flow Radio or whatever it was on. Might have been the Vader
mhm.
show, but either way, he was talking about that how the greats, they all have to be self motivated. If you
Yeah.
aren't self motivated, you won't make it very far in life. Whatever you decide to do, it has to be something you're passionate about and can motivate yourself.
Mm, mm. When did you think you started to be self-motivated? Like, how old were you?
I would have been 10 because it was my first year after I never placed at a tournament, and then I went to a tournament. I took first, and from that day on, I was like, it was. I'll be honest, it wasn't a very good tournament, but
Nice.
I don't think it was a novice tournament either, because I did win some novice tournaments, but I can remember I knew what a novice tournament was then. I
Yeah.
wasn't like delusional, so but this, well, for whatever reason, this kind of crappy tournament just like made me turn a corner. I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I got the trophy, and the rest is really history. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I had to do, and I knew I had the people behind me to get it done. So it was just a matter of time.
Awesome. Did you train at any clubs growing up, or were you only at Brookville?
No, like I would wrestle like sometimes at team tournaments that Brookville didn't go to. So like I did Virginia Beach a couple times with Renegade Force. Great people, love them. Awesome. I went to a couple camps with them in the summer, but never like any continuous training down there. I went to All American camps in the summer, but no continuous training down there. And so growing up, I was just full tilt into Brookville throughout one, and then once middle school hit, I was just all in on Brookville. Didn't go to anywhere else, and you know, it. Coach Klepfer and the coach at Clarion, Keith Ferrero, he was my coach at Brookville for a long time. So I had everything I needed. I didn't need to go very very far.
Did you guys have practices all summer long?
Yep, that's why
Hmm.
Coach Klepper and Coach Ferrer, they're the best, man. They had wife and kids, but they sacrificed a lot to get me to where I'm at, and they, not just me, they did it for everybody at Brookville, and I think that's why the family there is so tight knit, and it's something that a lot of people haven't experienced it, but it really is something special.
Mm, that's awesome. So, Brock, when was the first time, you said you took first in a tournament and then you really started to get better. When was the first time that you had a big accomplishment that you could look at and say like, man, look what I just achieved?
Yeah, so it was my second year of wrestling. I went to PJWs and I took eighth at states, and
I didn't ever did that.
I was amped, and um, at the time, younger kids, they always ask like, "Hey man, how many years you been wrestling?" And like I
Yeah.
was 10, so at the time you hear some people say like 5, 6 years, and I was like, this is my second year. So people would kind of be like, "Wow, are you serious? That kid just
Yeah.
he's wrestled 6 years." So I knew that from talking to people that something special was going on with me, and then I had a really high ceiling, and after that kind of happened, it was just I wasn't going to be denied, and then the next year after that I took second at PJWs and then third and second, and I had success early on, and it definitely held true. I kept it rolling.
Mm. And it's interesting because when I was a kid, I remember I went to a state tournament and didn't place the one year. The next year, I think I took fifth. The year after that, didn't place, and I was 11. Um, and because I would always, because in youth, you're at the top of your weight or your
Uh-huh.
age group, and then you're at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah,
And so
because
every
you get
time I
to
was at the
slide a
bottom, I'd
little
get my
bit.
butt kicked. But when I was on the top, I'd do okay.
That's
But I remember there was this one kid. Um, I remember looking at him, and it was his first year of wrestling, and he took third at the state tournament on a down year, and I was like,
Wow,
"What?"
that's impressive. That's impressive. He must have been a freak athlete.
Freak athlete,
That's
dude.
the thing. Talent gets you like so far. Like the younger you are, the further talent gets you. So like even in high
Yeah,
school, there's people that are just freak talents.
yeah,
That bad work
especially young.
ethics, and,
Yeah.
they have success, even win state championships. But then once they get into college, that's when they fall off. So the older you
Mm.
get, the further the hardworking people get to separate themselves. And I think it's just strictly because those people, put the work in, and it takes them longer to get that growth out of it. So
Yeah.
just it catches up with everybody.
And it's kind of interesting about how much like weight is placed on the PJW state tournament, and like how
It's
you know how crazy
unbelievable.
people get about it,
Yeah,
right? And
we're all there. We all did it. You can say
yep,
what you want. We all did it.
we all did it. We were all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most important thing in my life when I was
Yep.
10,
Same.
11, 12, and it's just kind of funny because looking back on some of those kids really did, they panned out and turned into really great wrestlers, but a lot of them just kind of dropped off.
Yep.
And I
I
mean,
think a lot
why
of
would you say that
people.
is?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they get to the top, right? And it's kind of like
Hmm.
the thing, like, hey, this is what I wanted to do. And like for example, for me, um, I wanted to be a state champ, and PJWs, I never was a state champ, so I was still hungry. And then
Yeah.
you get to varsity, and it's harder, but you still haven't accomplished what you wanted to, and that happens with each level. It gets significantly harder. You see it at college all the time. This guy's a state, 3-time, 4-time state champ. He goes to college and sees like, well, you know what, this is pretty stinking hard. Well, at
Yeah.
least as a 4-time state champ, I can be happy with that. And then you see them kind of sandbag and get their
Mm.
college education, and that's kind of what I think is probably a big part of it. Those people, it gets harder, and they take the easy way out, unfortunately. And I hate to say that about people, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah. Talk about your high school experience. You were a state champion, I know, as a senior. But what about before that?
Yeah. So before that, people always love to say that AAA is so much harder than
It is.
AA.
It is.
Yeah, really. But every single year, the number one kid at my weight was number one in the country,
Every
and
single year?
every single year, and that's AA. And
Mm.
so freshman year, I had some trouble. I didn't make weight at districts. It was
Yeah.
I moved past it, but it was just not okay. I was immature, and that's just basically the end of the
What
story.
weight you wrestle?
119, and then basically it wasn't the wrong weight for me. The problem was I was just an immature kid, and it was like something I always worked hard in the wrestling room, but it was like something I didn't realize how important it was. And that's hard for a young kid to realize how important it is to manage your weight when you're doing something like that. And so I was kind of a hippie about it and paid for it. But then,
Would you have placed that year, you think?
oh, I got to think, because I was undefeated. My only loss was to Mason Beckman, who I bumped up a weight to
No
wrestle.
way.
Yeah, he was also number one in the country. Him and I were
What?
just texting about it the other day. It's an awesome story. I'll just tell it. So
Yeah, go for it.
yeah, I was a freshman at the time, and I was wrestling 119, and we wrestled Reynolds, the team Mason wrestled for, at the duels. And I had been begging Coach all year long about bumping up to wrestle this guy. Coach Klepfer loves this story. And, looking back on it, I don't know what it was that I wanted the match so bad. And I think the big thing is I had never wrestled a kid of that caliber.
Yeah.
He was number one in the country. He was going to Lehigh. He was a senior.
Senior.
He was the man, dude. He's the guy, everyone wanted to be like. And at the time, he was on such a hot streak. He had just won Ironman. He'd won the Mannheim tournament. I forget what that one was called. King of the Rock. He was crushing
Yeah.
it. And, so I wanted a piece. I wanted to see where I was at. And I can remember going in and not having a single doubt in my mind that I was going to beat him too, which was like, it's crazy to think about for a kid at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is we set the duel up to where Coach told, the deal was, I can't remember, but we thought we could beat them that year, but things panned out that the score was out of control, and I was like the second to last match. And so Coach was like, hey, you want to wrestle him? And I'm like, heck yeah, I want to wrestle him. So we forfeit at 119, and we bumped me up. And
Oh.
the crowd they went berserk. They went nuts. It was like, it's the loud. Well, Brookville was a beast team back in the 90s when they won states. So
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, in the 2000 era, that's the loudest that gym's ever been. I can say with 100%
Oh
guarantee.
man.
And it was a super cool experience. But the match didn't go my way. What was nice is ended up being like a tight score, like 5-1 or something. Like he
Mm-hmm.
didn't crush me, but like it was a very dominant college style win where like he took me down right away, rode me for a period, took
Mm-hmm.
me down again, rode me. Probably had like 6 minutes or 5 minutes of riding time in a match. But yeah, it was an eye opener. And like I said, the score was like semi close. So it was like, to me at the time, I was just telling myself, hey, you're 4 points away from the best best there is, you know.
Yeah,
And
to
I was,
wait up, right?
yeah, oh yeah, and I was a young freshman too, so it was a really motivating thing. I'm really happy it happened, and you know, Mason and I have a really good relationship. I think because of it too. You know,
That's
you learn
awesome.
a lot about a guy that does something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, and then so that year unfortunately didn't pan out, and then you know my sophomore year I took 7th. I didn't have a great tournament, but you know that's the thing. It's hard for a young kid to be consistent. You know,
Yeah.
I bumped up to 138 after that. And then, you know, I was 38 again. I took 4th, lost to Zane Rutherford in the semis. And in my senior year, I took 1st. And, you know, at the time, I can remember thinking, uh, you know, my bracket, like was very winnable. I didn't think that there was too many people that could really push me. But then you look back and, you know, Kent Lane was a state champ. He's who I wrestled in the finals. Wetzel is I think he actually might have even got All-American status for Pitt this year. You know, he's an
Whoa.
East wrestler, state champ, and Labriola, young Labriola, was at that weight too.
No
So
way.
he was very young at the time, but
Mm.
yeah, he was in it. So there's a lot of studs at the weight.
I have a question. So, do you feel like do you look at other wrestlers around you, your peers and stuff at your weight class? Do you look at them as being like, you know, incredibly high level wrestlers, or do you look at them relative to you as either being, you know, a tough match, maybe a little bit better, or just worse than you?
Honestly, I try to do this. I try to stop doing this, but it's so hard. And
Mm-hmm.
people can say what they want. You're always comparing yourself to other people, and
Yeah.
it's one of the worst possible things that you can do because you put doubt in your mind. You start questioning things, and so. But I did it. I've done it for a long time, and I still do it today. You know, I can say whatever I want and be as cocky as I want about it, but I do it. And but the thing that's good for me is I realize how negative that is to do, and you know, my peers, I look at them as challenges, and not even challenges. Better word for it is opportunities. So,
Yeah.
you know, like when I start attacking this Olympic scene, you know, when I get up against Jordan Oliver, Yanni D, Zane again, and they're not even challenges; they're opportunities for me. And when you think of it like that, it's something that you should be excited about, not
Yeah.
something that you start to worrying about. Well, what happens if this happens? This happens? No, you don't think like that when you think of it as an opportunity,
Mm.
and it's something to attack, something to take from the other guy, and that it's super powerful because like I said, everyone does it. Everyone compares themselves to each other.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I'm especially just because of, you know, the huge role that social media plays in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these kids' lives. You know, and you can just go on the internet and you can look up any bracket from any tournament you can ever want to see,
Yep.
right? There's rankings that come out every single week, and if you want, you can waste all your time looking at who's going to wrestle who, and if you might wrestle him, you can research him, and you know.
Yep.
And I know that for me specifically, I can't say this for all because I know Sam Herring, my co-host, he likes to know who he's going to wrestle. He likes to have a game plan
Yeah.
formulated. I know that for me specifically, I wrestle my best when I don't know who I'm going to wrestle. I don't
Yeah.
know who's across the map for me.
But
And, you know, focusing on myself instead of on what the other guy's going to do.
yeah, that's what. So when I coach, my whole philosophy is the wrestler should not be focused on winning or losing. And you hear people
Right.
say it all the time, where I want to be the best version of myself, but that's a very lazy approach to say that. What you really
Mm-hmm.
need to do is every time you step on the mat, you need to give yourself the best chance to win that you can. And
Yeah.
so when you start thinking like that, it allows you to make the best opportunity every second of the match. Whereas like, you know, some people, for example, I did this my whole career. I would get a takedown easy, so easy. Like whenever I was wrestling Ironman, I took him down the first time with an awesome double. You know, no weird scrambles or anything. And I thought literally in my head, you know, that was super easy. I can take him down again. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
relax for a second. And then 2 seconds later, guess what? I was pinned in the quarterfinals of NCAA tournament, and dropped down and had Kevin Jack in the blood round. So you know that changed my whole career.
Yeah.
And that line of thinking is so bad. And you need to be thinking of what gives me the best chance to win that match. In that specific situation, I got an easy takedown, what I thought, put the hammer down, put the pedal to the floor and start lighting
Yeah.
this guy up. And then, if I take him down, that pin doesn't happen if I put the pedal to the floor. Maybe he even takes me down a couple times. Maybe I lose the match because I put the pedal to the floor. But looking back on it, that's what would have gave me the best chance to win. And that's what, whenever I teach, that's a little bit of a tangent. That's the concept behind everything. And you got to give yourself a system, something to rely on and do what gives you the best chance to win the match, not have anything to do with what the other guy's doing. It's obviously good to be conscious of their threats and stuff. But when you have an elite system, and when you watch the best guys, there are very, very few occasions where they're reacting to the other guy, right?
Yeah.
And when they are, it's something not very good is becoming of it.
Listen to this. So I read Dan Gable's book not that long ago, and he's one of the last thoughts he says that he had in his mind before he went out to wrestle Larry Owens, who was the guy who snapped his nearly undefeated streak. One of the last thoughts he had was, watch out for his cradle, and he writes about it, and he says, I had never ever once cared about whatever the other guy was going to do. It did not matter to me. So he said that because he had that watch out for his cradle, because he started thinking about the other guy, it just started putting these kind of doubts into his mind, and that ultimately, it goes to show he ultimately lost the match.
Yep.
Because he wasn't focused on himself and what he could do.
Yep. To put it simply, man, wrestling's all about you staying comfortable and you making your opponent uncomfortable. If you stay comfortable the whole time, you're jogging while he's sprinting. So if you can do that, then you're going to. How can you lose, really? Besides getting stuck, and that stuff happens, but you can't be afraid of that.
Right.
And so when you think about it like that, and I think that's the right way to think about it, you don't want to be reacting to the other guy. You need to be doing what works for you. That's what gives you the best chance to win matches.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree with you. Okay. So I have so you had a really good high school career. But I also, in my research, I mean, you were a Flonats champ. I'm pretty sure you made the junior world team finals. When did you start transitioning to freestyle?
Well, it would have been my senior year that summer. I took Fargo very seriously. I had a killer senior year. I was in the finals at Super 32, got smashed by Nolf, unfortunately. But and then, like you said, I won states. I won Flow Nationals, and that summer I still wasn't ranked first in the country, and that was something I really wanted to do. And so I saw Fargo as a chance to do that. And so that's when me and Deloya kind of sat down with each other and just, what do we need to do to get this done? So he came out to Fargo with me. We were so close, man. I was in the finals. I beat some really good guys, people that were ranked ahead of me. And then, actually Seth Gross was even at that way. He was in the semis on the other side, and he lost. And I had a kid named, I'm drawing a blank right now. I got revenge, so it doesn't hurt me as much anymore. But Matt Finley. And it was a crazy match. I get out to a big time lead, and he was a beast, dude. He earned that title, man. And he came back. He actually ended up teching me. I was up by like 8 or 9 points, and he came back and teched me. So it was really impressive. Yeah, I broke. The wheels fell off, and hats off to him. He's a really tough competitor.
Is he an All-American? Does he wrestle for Utah Valley?
Yeah, he was. I don't think he's All-American, man. He has had a rough go at it. He's been battling a lot of injuries, but he's definitely the caliber of guy that could All-American. But
I just pulled up his wrestle stat, and it's like, it's a lot of injuries.
Yeah, he's had.
He didn't even wrestle this season.
That's what I didn't think he did. But yeah, so that's when it I realized what I realized then is freestyle, folk style kind of takes a lot away of what I'm really good at, and folk style or freestyle makes it really good. I can get the guy's legs so easily. I'm so fast and explosive. I can shoot and not have to worry about getting thrown around because my head's always up. And so I can get these one-pointer. A lot of what Jordan Burroughs does is what makes me so lethal on my feet. And that's when I really just started to appreciate freestyle. And then after I had that success, I wanted a world title bad in 2015. And it was my last year for a junior. So I made a big cut down, won the tournament. And, that's when the whole Joey McKenna drama went down. And it was super unfortunate. And a lot of people they give me flack. They're like, well, you should have just made him make, because I fought for an allowance for our challenge tournament, and I was cutting an unbelievable amount of weight. It was really hard on me. I did it right. I
Yeah.
shrunk my body down. I was walking around at like 36. And then, I never used like anything negative, and no plastics, no sauna, no nothing. I did it right. But it doesn't mean it was easy. And
Mm-hmm.
so I fought for that. And people said, well, you should have made, because he never had made the weight ever. He wrestled 65 seniors during that tournament. And I just always tell them, people, I'm like, dude, I thought I was the baddest dude in the planet. That's the thing about wrestlers. We're all alpha males. It
Yeah.
wasn't about conquering Joey McKenna at that point. It was about, okay, I'm taking this guy out, and then I'm taking out the rest of the world. So
Yeah.
that never even crossed my mind. I was not worried about Joey McKenna. Obviously, I was, ready for the match and respected him, but that's not what it was about.
No.
I didn't want any easy way out. So I was trying to win a world title, dude. There's no easy way to do it. So,
Yep.
That's the only kind of negative flack, because, obviously he went on and didn't make weight at the tournament. So, people like to talk about that. But, looking back, I was very mad for a long time. And even today, I'll never say I like the kid, but you got to think he wanted a world title more than anything. And, there's no way he did that on purpose. So.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to make the weight. You got to make the weight to wrestle. So
that's true. That's part of the deal.
That's part of the deal. All right. So, you had a lot of success, especially in your senior year of high school. Now, talk about your transition to college wrestling. Why did you decide on Clarion?
Just because throughout the process, well, one thing is I committed before my senior year. So my killer senior year, that didn't even happen. The best I had on my resume at that point was I actually had a good Flow Nationals tournament the year before. I took third at a pretty tough weight. And so I was getting recruited, but not by any of the big time schools. And through the process, I kind of realized, you just don't get there's salesmen, right? Every college coach is running a business. And through that, I realized, what they're saying is they're not lying to you. But what you need to realize is not everything they're saying is true. And so the longer I got through the process, the more I realized how I needed someone on my side, like someone I could trust through this process, and someone that I could rely on. He's not going to find the next best guy if I don't have the success right away. That's just so important. And I had that guy in Keith Ferrero. He's a guy that's coached me since I was 10. So when he got that job there, whenever I was in ninth grade, the summer of my ninth grade year, he got the job there. I pretty much knew I was going there. So eventually I just got sick of the process, and I didn't want to really waste anyone else's time. I just sat down with them and said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. Let's get it done.
Man, that's awesome. And I know it's not that easy for a lot of people. A lot of people get caught up in the whole recruiting process.
I think the one, I got some advice that really helped. I think social media, again, makes such a negative impact on people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to go to the small school when they could have went to the big school, because they're afraid of what other people would think. But then you always see that those people, they just aren't happy there. It wasn't the right fit for them. While they were experienced Clarion, and they see the coaching staff and the guys, and they say, wow, those are some great dudes. I love the atmosphere there. And, they end up picking the other school that's, the Big Ten or whatever. And then, they fall off. They don't have any success, or, to see them get beat up and all that stuff. And that's where I just think you need to follow your gut. Someone told me that, you'll just, when you get to the place you're supposed to be, you'll get that sign, someone, you'll have that feeling, this is the place for me. And when you get that feeling, man, you got to act on it, because that's fate. That's fate talking to you. So,
yeah. And, I'll use him as an example because he's my dude. But Chance Marsteller went to Oklahoma State, and it didn't fit in at all. Right. And he had a really rough first year there. And then, a couple years later, he's at Lock Haven, much smaller school, considered, a different tier than Oklahoma State by a lot of people. But look what he did.
Yep.
All American, right?
Yep.
Good example
too, man. He was
right there.
Yep.
He's an awesome dude. So, but what would you say the biggest difference from high school wrestling to college wrestling is? What was the biggest transition for you to make?
For me, Brookville does a great job of teaching technique. So technique was never the issue with me. The issue was, dude, everybody that grabs a hold of you at this level is a man. Like they have years in the college weight room, and the second one of them dudes grabs a hold of you, you can tell. Like they're for real. There's no easy way out now. Every point you get is you got to earn. And so, to me, that was the biggest thing. But even that, speaking to the younger guys that might be worried about it or maybe even going through it, that's it. You keep throwing yourself in the fire. In a couple weeks, maybe in a couple months, that you become that guy. You become that man too. You spend that time in the weight room, and you'll never notice it. So then you can start tailoring, like fixing your technique, seeing where you're breaking down, and all that kind of stuff.
It's kind of interesting because all throughout my youth, whenever the Penn State guys, because that's who I would watch the most, because I have rec halls in my backyard, I would go and I'd watch. They'd have close matches, like 3-point matches, 2-point matches. And I never really thought anything of it. All I knew was like, oh, blue guy's getting his hand raised. I should be happy.
Yeah.
And, now I'm in high school, and like knowing like, people have 3-point matches, like, wow, that like, it's really close. It's really contested bout. If it's 1 or 2 points for the most part, like, you're right in there to win it. And so like really realizing like, man, this is actually like in college, even the guys who are really low on the totem pole, you could say, like really incredibly tough guys. Like, and nobody's going to roll over for you.
Yep.
And I mean, I haven't experienced that yet. I'm still a sophomore.
You will.
I will. I'm fully expecting it.
That's the thing. Everyone's elite there. Everybody who wrestles a state champ, multiple time state champ.
Yeah.
And, like even the best of the best are never out of the water, man. Like look at the year Jason Wolf was having. And then he has that tight match with Hayden. And look at Bo Nickel back when he was on that tear. He had a really tight match with the Rutgers kid, Garvina, I think's his name.
Yeah.
And so,
Garvina.
You have one off day, man. They're right there. And that's why a lot of people just don't realize how special some of these guys were that were able to do the things that they did. So it's definitely another level.
It's difficult to like put into perspective because, there's always this attention on the top guys, right? And they're like, look how incredible they are. They're dismantling these people. Yeah. But it doesn't really put it in perspective for how good the guys they're actually dismantling.
Yeah.
Like Bo Nickel pins Sammy Brooks in a spladle, makes it look like the easiest thing ever.
Yeah.
Sammy Brooks, like if you don't know who that is, you probably don't think Sammy Brooks is that good, but oh my gosh, right? Sammy Brooks is an incredible wrestler. And so, especially for, I can speak because I'm a kid, especially looking up, it's very hard to put it into perspective just how good everybody is at the Division I level.
Yep.
They're there for a reason.
The one thing that's really hard for people to see is those guys are so tight, but they're also so lethal. So like the same kid can go out and lose, he can get majored 12-2, 12-3, whatever. He can win the next week. That can happen at this level, because when you make some minor adjustments, or you just, instead of becoming the guy, you were the guy reacting the first time, you become the guy calling the shots the next match, the tables totally turn. And when you realize that, you get to kind of tell yourself, you learn that the losses don't matter right now. It's all about learning from them, figuring out how can I be the guy calling the shots next time we compete, and just learning how to adapt and how to make your style work and get to your best positions and stay there on anybody.
Well, so moving on, Brock, congratulations, All-American, man.
That's right.
Dude, how does it feel? What's it like?
It's amazing, man. And I've said it before, and on my little flow piece that they did, I had made peace with the fact that it was probably not going to happen. And, because it was all about and I'm glad it did, because it makes you realize really what this was all about. And, the things I was able to accomplish, the man I turned into, they just really show you how great of a situation and, the people behind me, they really are. And it makes all their sacrifices worth it. And it just shows you how special a place Clarion really is. To just take this kid from Brookville, that had some success in high school and make him an NCAA American that's unbelievable. I never left it my whole life, and so it's a great feeling. And I think the one thing I do want to address is I think some people might even put an asterisk by this, but here's what my thought process on all of that. And clearly, I'm biased, but after hearing this, I don't know how you could argue with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, an All-American, you got to think like what that means. And in normal years, it means you place top 8 at the NCAA tournament. None of us asked for this. No one asked for this tournament to be canceled. No one asked to be handed anything. But we didn't have that opportunity. And so when you don't have that opportunity, you need to look deeper and say, well, what does an All-American represent? And they represent a couple things. Most importantly, they represent, a caliber of wrestler that's able to consistently beat the top guys in the country. And, how they kind of decided the guys at each weight, I'm not totally positive. But everybody on that list exemplified that.
Yep.
And, digging deeper, they represent somebody that works incredibly hard, loves the sport, never takes a day off, and is just someone that's really special. And like I said, every single person on that list, that they fit that mold. And that's why I think everybody on this list deserves to be an All-American, and I think that they should be bragging about it like crazy.
Man, that's awesome. Here's a difficult question. Does it, how did you cope with, so you're a 3-time NCAA qualifier, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did you cope with not physically,
4, I guess.
Well, 4.
Yeah.
How did you cope with not actually getting a chance to stand on that podium your senior year, right there, nobody doubted that you were, in the mix for a title.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you to not get the chance to wrestle in that tournament and to prove to everyone else that you can be a national champ?
It was tough, and that's why, I'm not going to lie to anybody. People have been telling me, you handled this extremely well. The next day I was on Flow giving my perspective on everything. But it wasn't like that initially. I was crushed worse than anyone. I can almost guarantee you that I was crushed more than anyone. I went immediately home, sat down, and just started bawling. And, my dog started attacking me. I didn't move. I didn't move for an hour. But then, I picked up my phone and I had all these messages from people. And, a lot of people I didn't even know. And they were people from Brookville, Clarion, saying all these great things. And, one specifically, this guy named Rick Mays messaged me saying, basically he told me a story of how Coach Klepfer thought of me and talked about me growing up and going through the program, and saying, all these great things and how he hopes his kids can be like me. And when you read something like that, you realize what it's all about. It's about inspiring the younger generation. It's about showing the world how great of people are behind you. And I did all those things, no one will ever question that. And so to have those people be proud of me is, my mom, my coaches, the people of these 2 cities, in Brookville and Clarion, it's all I ever wanted. So that, once I was able to realize that, I was pretty happy, and I was proud too of what I was able to do.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible, man. Like what a well-developed perspective, just to, put it, really to look at the whole situation and try to take good out of it. Because, especially with the coronavirus and the nature of it is like people are scared, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And fear, it's just because we didn't really know what we're up against. And so people are reacting in the worst way possible, which is they're freaking out and everything's getting canceled. And there's so much negativity just detracting from our quality of life, right? When you're spending time just, browsing Twitter and all it is people complaining and being sad, and there's so much bad stuff going on. Like it is so easy to fall into like a victimized mindset.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And that's the
really
thing.
Tough.
It's like that can't happen at Brookville or Clarion, man. We don't allow it. It's like something. Everybody in these places are bringing each other up, and I realize, unfortunately, that's not everywhere. And so, I don't take that for granted. And that's why I like to scream at the top of my lungs how great these two places are.
That's really special. Okay, here I have a question about, the flow film. So, well, first, you were on the day after, all this went down. How did you get in contact with Bader? How did they reach out to you?
Well, dude, I was going nuts. Like, what I was saying?
Mm-hmm.
I was so upset, and immediately I was desperate, dude. I was looking for answers. I was like, hey, do you guys think we're going to get any eligibility? And, CP he's the man. He always
He's the
gets
man.
back to me. He really is he's a genuine guy. And I hate when I see people talk bad about him or anything, because he really is. He's a genuine guy. He had no reason to respond to me. And he didn't even have answers, but, he gave me, he's like, I don't know anything either. I know as much as you, but if I know anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And so that next morning I get him. He's like, hey, do you want to come on? And because I think he could tell, I was hurting pretty good. And so I thought, they thought it would be interesting to have me on, and I said absolutely. And that's because I knew at that point, I could help people. I knew that there was people that were going to be struggling, and so that was the whole goal with everything, was just we were trying to help everyone out, and I think we did that. I think we did a good job. They did a great job.
Yeah, no, they did. So then, did you know that you were gonna have such like a star role in their film?
No clue. I did not see that coming, and
Mm.
um, it was like a week or two before uh, David Bray messaged me and said that they were putting this together, and they were like, he just said he wanted to let me know, that it's coming along good, and that he thinks that the message that we were going to put out was something really special. And
Was.
so then I got super excited. I had a bunch of people over here and we watched it. Not a bunch, obviously. There was like three of us. My fiance and one of the coaches here. So we followed the rules, but yeah, I think what they did was something really special, because it's easy for wrestlers to look tough on the outside,
Mhm.
but it's a lot of people are saying that they feel good about this and they've made peace with it, but there's still going to be a lot of people out there that need that help. And I think
Right.
this documentary will definitely help them. And I can see something of this nature happening at some point again in the future.
Yeah.
It's not inevitable, and when it does, these poor people, they'll have something to look on and kind of give them a little bit of perspective.
Mhm. Man, how did you feel the whole film turned out?
Amazing. I loved what they did. I'm glad that they even thought to do it.
Yeah.
Those guys have a million things going on. They have, and people hammer them. They're always blaming them, yelling at them for not doing this, or they should do this and not this, and
Mhm.
whatever. But like, they thought of that, and they're always trying to do good by the wrestling community, and it just stinks to see people so hard on them. So
Yeah.
the fact they were even to think of this and then put this together so fast and do such a great job doing it, just tip of the cap to them. They really deserve it.
No, the guys at Flow they really do a great job. You can tell that they put it so much of their lives and their energy into producing not just content, but high quality content for wrestling fans of all ages, all skill levels, all interest levels.
Yeah.
And we don't really talk about this a whole lot, but the reason Sam and I started a podcast is because we were inspired by Flow.
Yeah.
We were inspired by how they were doing it, and we admired them for being able to be so passionate about this awesome sport. And I mean, like without them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be
Yep.
doing this.
Yeah. That's what
Right?
it's all about. And you're helping people, dude. Like, people watch this and get inspired just like you did. And having people on like me and all the other people you have, everyone has something good to say. And when you
Mm,
can have a beacon of light, and you can beam out some great insight and knowledge, dude, it's a ripple effect, and it can make a really big impact. And you'll never even know it probably, but you're doing it every time you do one of these.
and dude, if I can just reach a fraction of the amount of people that Flow reaches, then I'm going to be very grateful, because I, from the bottom of my heart, I really enjoy doing this. I love the sport of wrestling more than anything. I love
Yeah.
interacting with it in any way I can, and just being able to talk to wrestlers and learn from their mindset, and it's just very special. And if people can listen to this, and even in 15 years, because this
Yep.
stuff's going to be on the internet,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
Even
not
if they're
going
not
nowhere.
even listening to it today, they listen to this in 15 years and they can take one little grain, one little morsel of truth and value, and they can apply it to their lives, and I consider this a huge success.
Yep, 100%.
It's pretty awesome that I have the capabilities to sit in my living room and interview an All-American and have people listen to this. It's a very special age we're living in. So, I mean, we're coming to the close of this interview. It's been about 45 minutes, but Brock, what's something we don't know about you? What kind of hobbies do you pursue outside of wrestling?
Oh boy, do I got one for you.
Oh man.
So I am a die-hard Magic the Gathering fanatic.
Nice.
And I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I know what that is. I play Pokemon. I don't play Magic, but I do play the card games.
Magic's way better, but I won't go in on that. But so I started playing Magic my freshman year of college. Crazy, I know, weird time to get into something like that. But dude, I got so deep into this. I spent not hundreds, thousands of dollars on these cards, and I would go to all these tournaments. And I'm mediocre at best. It's just complete passion driving me to go to these things. My brother's very competitive. He basically, if he enters a tournament, he wins it, and he doesn't even need to have the best cards or deck or whatever. He's just always crushing it. And so that's like basically, especially during wrestling season, I'm wrestling or playing Magic or school, I guess. But that's something that I don't think very many people know about me. People that know me real well know how big of a fan I am. But dude, I love it.
That's awesome, man. Like, I mean, people don't know that only my teammates, really. They don't know I play Pokemon. A lot of people.
That's basically just my teammates now.
Yeah. And it was funny. So I changed schools this past year, and I went from State College to Bellefonte, and didn't know almost anybody on the team. I mean, like, we're in the same county, we're in the same like district and whatever. And so you like know the kids, but you don't like know them.
Yeah,
and the first tournament, I brought my Nintendo Switch, and I was playing I was probably playing Zelda or something. And I was just sitting in the stands, completely chilled out, just playing my Switch. And the kids on the team thought I was very weird. They're like, why is he doing this? But listen, man, like, and then, I started having a little bit of success, and the kids started to get to know me. And then it was like just part of who I was. Like, oh, Jude, he just brings his Switch to all the tournaments, and instead of watching wrestling, because I like, if I like watch wrestling during a tournament, like my energy level goes up, and I
get zapped. It takes a lot of energy.
I get zapped. So all I do is I go sit behind the bleachers, I go sit in the hallway, put in my headphones, just play some Pokemon.
I love it. That's smart too. It really is. Because that's why, dude, end of tournaments, people are freaking zonked. They're tired.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with matches. It's just being aware all day.
Yeah. Being emotionally into it, dude, exhausts you. And that's what's cool about wrestling, is because even though, we're all wrestlers, right? And we all can appreciate the sport, it's still just a fraction of who we are as a person and our personality and what drives us and what motivates us, what entertains us, because we're all different. We're all human beings.
100%.
Spencer Lee likes Pokemon. I like Pokemon. You like Magic the Gathering, and like that's stuff that can't be conveyed to you through a wrestling match or on TV. You can't get that from somebody unless you can actually talk to them and learn from them. If I can, I just like learning about you guys. I like learning about top wrestlers. I like, it's not as much about learning about you as a wrestler, but more about learning who you are as a person. Mm-hmm. That's what I kind of look forward to in interviews. Yeah. How can I not only make it so I learn about them, but so that the people who listen to this podcast get to see a side of you that they can't see on the wrestling mat.
Yeah. So. That's like, everyone, we talk about wrestling. Every wrestler talks about wrestling religiously.
Yep.
And we love it. But you really want to get to know someone and really, make them happy. Talk about their hobby. They'll talk your ear off. Something that's kind of a little bit secret, right? They don't get to talk about it all the time. So when they get to start blabbering on about it, man, you'll have a friend for life.
Dude, for real. So, okay. Last real question. What kind of long-term goals do you have for not only your wrestling career, but for your entire life? What do you want to do?
Real simple. I want to win a world title. And then after I win a world title, I want to make Clarion Wrestling a better place. I want to be a good husband, and I want to be a good father. And that's it.
That's awesome. Do you plan to stay around the sport
Forever?
ever?
Ideally, I want to just coach at Clarion till the day I die. And, I don't really know exactly what's going on with that, but, I got to think at some point I'll be able to crack my way into the Clarion coaching staff. So I'm willing to wait it out, however long it takes.
Awesome.
Hopefully that pans out. And if it doesn't, I have I have my master's in business administration from Clarion here. And there's a lot of great connections at Clarion that, if I need to go make $1 million, I'll go make $1 million.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So Brock, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It has been a blast. It's been really fantastic. My last thing for you is there just any other thoughts you would like to leave our listeners with? Just something that they can take away from this whole long interview.
Be kind, work hard. If you do those two things, you won't have many worries in life. There'll be a lot of people on your side.
Making it simple, Brock. Making it simple. All right. Hey man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you having you on, and hopefully we'll get you back on again sometime. We can talk more wrestling. And
for sure. Anytime, dude. Love it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys for listening.